Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. It's Brexit again. It's all Brexit at the moment. And I'm going to be discussing in this one the issue of sovereignty again after listening to what a still Brexit supporter had to say about it on the James O'Brien show. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So I don't normally do things like this. Maximilian Robespierre, who is another anti-Brexit commentator on YouTube, would normally do this sort of thing. And I'm not going to play it for you, but I will just go over the bare bones of it. So there's a phone-in show, James O'Brien does on LBC. And a guy rang in, first of all, to express it is pro-Brexit and still pro-Brexit, as far as I could tell. And he was saying that he was surprised that an Australia-style deal is the same thing as no deal. He didn't realise this. Which was surprising to the host. Because this person said he'd been following Brexit. And then James O'Brien tried to say, how can you say you've been following Brexit and we're not aware of this very basic fact? That an Australia-style deal means no deal at all. It's the same thing. But he was saying he was surprised. But that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is something else he's still stuck to because he's still a Brexit supporter. The fact that he's now accepting that he's been lied to and that he hasn't understood something very basic doesn't appear to have triggered in him any change in thought processes. And he was asked directly, so what do you think now is the benefit of Brexit? Why are you still supporting it? And he said sovereignty, innit? The old sovereignty. It's the only thing Brexiteers have got left now. They cannot now claim that it's going to be better for us economically. That is self-evidently not going to be the case. They cannot claim that we're going to get all the benefits of membership with none of their hassles. That is self-evidently not the case. All of the things that they were claiming a few years ago have gone apart from this nebulous concept of sovereignty. But although I have described it in the past as a nebulous concept, it's absolutely something you can argue from an objective point of view, because James O'Brien asked this guy, what does that mean to you? And the guy responded, quick as a flash, being able to make our own laws. I mean, this is the biggest facepalm of it. So here's the thing. Now, there are a couple of things for me to say, first of all, in terms of so that we can make our own laws. Now, there's two ways of looking at that. I'll come at both, first of all. The first thing I could say is we do anyway. We always did as members of the EU in a mechanical sense. In a mechanical sense, every single law in operation in the UK has been passed by a legislative body in the UK, whether it be Westminster or like the Scottish Parliament, Welsh Parliament, you know. A legislative body within the UK has passed it. There are no laws in operation in the UK that were not. And there was a vote for them, a vote that could have gone the other way, and sometimes does. There are, for example, some EU laws which are not in operation in the UK and never have been because our Parliament wouldn't pass them. It's naughty, I've said it before. You know, I am a big believer, if you want certain freedoms, you should accept the responsibilities that come with them. We should have adopted all EU laws. But the fact of the matter is that just demonstrates actually member states are sovereign. Yes, they're supposed to adopt EU laws, but they don't always. We haven't always. The second side of it, so then you say, but I'm not talking about the mechanical side of it. I'm talking about who decides the laws. Okay, sure, yeah. In that case, that's fine. A number of laws in the UK are agreed internationally. They weren't entirely in-house. But that is still going to be the case after Brexit. That does not end after Brexit. In fact, more of our laws are going to be decided by others after Brexit. More of them. And it's very, very easy to pick out clear examples of this. Take the Japanese trade deal that has been agreed in principle. We have yet to see the details published. However, there are people who have seen them and reported on them, and they have noted that it has involved signing up to a load of rules. I mean, we know this anyway. But for example, those who've seen it have described that it includes tighter state aid rules than exist in the EU. So in order to agree this Japanese trade deal, we have had to accept Japanese rules that we didn't have to accept to get a free trade agreement with Japan whilst we were members of the EU. So whilst we're members of the EU, we didn't have to sign up to those rules. Now that we're not, we do. Straight away, immediately, And unfortunately, we won't be able to show this until it is published, to the public so that I can point it out to you. But at some point it will be, and I will do. I'll be able to go, there is a rule we have signed up to post-Brexit, or after leaving the EU at least. Then you've got the Agriculture Bill. This is something you can absolutely point to. The Agriculture Bill has just been passed. This does nothing for us. It does not help our agriculture industry. It does not hold our agriculture industry to high standards as such, per se. That's not the purpose of it. The agriculture sector in Britain is dead against it. We passed it because it is necessary to get a US trade deal. So we have now already put laws in place, laws in place that were decided not in Britain, not anywhere in Britain, but in Washington in the United States. You know, though the Agriculture Bill, and the reason why there was such controversy is because it forces British farmers to adhere to certain standards. Okay, fine. That's what you'd want in an Agriculture Bill. But it allows other countries to import lower standards of food into the country. The chlorinated chicken, for example, that is now legal. As soon as we've left the transition period, there is really nothing to stop that. I'm not saying it will necessarily happen as soon as we leave the transition period, because again, the UK still has the ability to block it, and indeed will do until we have a US trade deal. But when the US trade deal comes in, then that will start to come in, as well as other food products as well, that at the moment don't meet our standards. That doesn't help us at all. In fact, that undercuts our own farming sector. That is a law that has been decided in Washington and we have applied. Less sovereignty, less, not more. We wouldn't have had to do that as members of the EU. We'd have been too powerful. 3, the other thing I would say, so what do these people think trade deals are? I'd love to sort of speak to these people myself. I don't have my own phone-in show. And just ask them, so what do you think a trade deal is? I mean, I know they've never read any, but what do they imagine a trade deal physically is? What does it contain in it? Because what it is, because I've read a few, not in great detail, but every now and then you have to read them to understand what the difference is. It's a treaty of rules agreed by both sides. Every trade deal we've ever had and we ever will have, will contain rules that the other side insisted we implement and we agreed to. This is why trade deals come with a negotiating period and an implementation period. The implementation period is for you to put into place what the other side wanted and that you agreed to. Legislation as well as infrastructure. So, again, any trade deal we want to get, I mean, that's what's happened with the Japanese trade deal. It's what will happen with an EU trade deal. It's what will happen with the US trade deal. In fact, we've put the laws in without even agreeing the US trade deal. Of course, we don't know what's been agreed behind closed doors. The 4th thing is, what do they think the World Trade Organization is? Because all the no-deal Brexit supporters, and I accept that not all Brexit supporters are no-deal Brexit supporters, but of the ones who are, they're all cheering on WTO terms. What the hell do they think that means? WTO, they're rules. They're rules that were decided outside of the UK. They're not British rules. Why are we delighted that we're going to be following a load of rules that were not decided in Britain? It's baffling. For example, it's WTO rules that mean we're going to have a hard border between Britain and Northern Ireland. People say, oh, that's the Northern Ireland Protocol. That was the EU. They said we had to have it there to get the withdrawal agreement. But that's because there has to be a hard border somewhere, and they will not accept a hard border inside Ireland. But what creates a hard border somewhere, anywhere, is WTO terms. WTO terms say that you are not allowed to give favourable trading conditions to a third country without an agreement. If we don't have an agreement, then we're not allowed to just allow, EU goods into the country without applying tariffs, unless we do it to everywhere else in the world. And the same thing for the EU. That's why a customs border has to exist. That's WTO rules. The other thing is really, when it comes to laws, every country has to adopt laws that are decided elsewhere. But you have to think of it this way. Who makes them up? Because this is the problem with Brexit supporters. There's too many of them think in terms of them and us. Like there's Britain and then there's the rest of the world, as if it's two different camps. They never see themselves as part of the world. You know, they failed to realise that the vast majority of EU laws, over 97% of them, were actually conceived or strongly supported by the UK. Most EU laws are British laws. It's not the other way around. They think of it as the EU, this extra thing, this separate thing that's not ours, decided these laws and we had to adopt them. It's the other way around, really. We decided and the EU had to adopt them, really, because we were one of the big three, along with France and Germany. Most of these laws are really the instigation of one of those three nations. And when it came to it, we, you know, even when France and Germany came up with ideas, we generally supported them because it was in all our interests. We were one of the big three. We had massive amounts of influence on those rules. There's only a few % that we didn't really agree with. And not all of those we even implemented. We were also fairly influential in the wider world for you know, wider rules as well, in the UN and the WTO and so on. You know, so many more global rules had more than our fair share of input. And we're always going to have to follow international rules if we wish to be international. If we don't just want to be a hermit nation, you know, apparently we want to be global Britain. But now that we've left the EU, we will decide far fewer of those rules. In fact, we're going to be so desperate for trade deals, we will sign up to much harsher rules that are completely not decided by us, as has already been demonstrated by the Japanese trade deal. The agriculture bill is another great example, as I've said. We currently have no chance of a US trade deal because we're threatening Ireland. But we have nonetheless adopted laws that they wanted anyway, so that it's one hurdle fewer to jump through when we do agree to behave ourselves and we can start talks, trade talks with the US. You know, Brexit has made us less sovereign, not more. It is a constant source of frustration that people do not see that. And, you know, and people will say, oh, why are you so anti-British, Phil? Say the people who are consigning what being British means to history. Because on our current trajectory, Britain, Great Britain, call it what you will, is simply going to be the island on which we live. Because that's what it is. That's the name of the island that encompasses Scotland, England and Wales. It will have no national relevance because it won't be even the basis of a nation. You know, a nation that has stood for centuries, became the most powerful in the world, we don't like to talk about how, has not merely waned. All countries wax and wane in terms of influence. We're on the decline, we get that. But we've not merely declined, like, say, Spain or Italy have. You know, we're being broken up by the very people who are claiming to defend it. And this is why actions are, of course, so much more important than words. And I wonder when people will see what their actions have done. Do we have to wait until the UK is actually broken up and the EU is even stronger before these people will finally realise, do you know what? It's not the EU collapsing, it's the UK. And it's them that did it. But anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting and a few little pointers to use if anyone tries to use the sovereignty argument with you. If you'd like to support the channel, please click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.